So trying to get myself to be a person that reads again. And that isn't just A Song of Ice and Fire or George R. R. Martin based books. And so I talked to one of my friends and I'm like, on TikTok, all the girlies are really into these like romantasy books. And I'm like, my friend's a big reader. I'm like, give me a basic bitch romantasy book that's like easy to read and quick. And like, we can read it together and then talk about it. Like that'll motivate me to read. So I started reading this book called Quicksilver, which is like this fucking thick.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is not a quick read. And my friend's like, it's really, but it goes by fast. I'm like, this is like 700 pages. What are you talking about? And it's good. Like, it's fine. But it's one of those things where it's like, I realize how spoiled I've been on George R. R. Martin because his writing is just like so superior to everything else. And like, I was complaining. I was like, the story is good and the world building is interesting. And like, I'm interested in the plot and whatever, but like, I want to line edit this story because it's just like I'm so like, the writing is not good. There's like grammatical errors. And I'm like, it's driving me a bit insane. It's a New York Times bestseller. Like it's a very popular book. It's going to be made like a series, etc. Like very popular book. But like the writing is driving me crazy. And my best friend's like, you have to remember like the genre it's in, whatever. And I was like, George R. R. Martin writes books that are many thousands of pages and does not waste a single line in all that time.
Yeah.
And I just like, I'm like such a snob about it now.
It does spoil you sometimes for other books because when you're used to the prose just being so strong, it's hard to engage in like, where you're like, this prose is weak. You need to refine your craft.
I'm like, why are there 3 sentences here when there could have been 1 sentence that said the same thing? Like, we don't need this many. Like, I want to go through with like a red pen, but I'm like, it's obviously a very good book. Lots of people like it. I also enjoy reading it.
Sure.
I just have, I also submit my complaints to the
I feel like sometimes we owe it to ourselves to read books like that, to remind ourselves that you don't have to be a superhuman writer to write.
Right, exactly. It does make me feel better about my writing. That is true.
Where I'm like, there are times sometimes, like when I am fully in the whole reading A Song of Ice and Fire or just George's writing in general, I'm like, I cannot write because I am not a god or whatever. Yeah. And then it's like, no, you actually don't have to be a god in order to write.
Right, exactly. Like you don't have to be writing fine literature. You can write a noble story.
There are plenty of writers who get away with a lot worse. So I think sometimes we owe it to ourselves to remind ourselves that not every writer is perfect, I guess, in that way. But no, that is hilarious. And I do think that's got to be, I feel like that's very jarring to go from like George to romantic, like straight to a romantasy. Yeah. That's like, you almost have to ease in with something like in between.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like our characters like curse and they like, and it's funny because I see a lot of people complain about the whole, like in every fantasy book, there's like, the slight change. Instead of people saying like, oh my God, they say like something slightly different. It's almost like, oh my gods.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it isn't always, oh my gods. You're right. 7 hells. Like, oh. We do this, don't we? All of us do this. Okay.
This is a fantasy story.
We got it. It's the gods are fake. Do you get it?
Yeah. No, that's. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Pod of the Seven Kingdoms, where we are taking a journey through the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the Dunk and Egg novellas by George R. R. Martin. I'm Phil.
And I'm Belak.
And we have back with a new episode, a little bit delayed from what we had originally planned. I had a brief illness, but everything's good. Just
Phil
like everything.
Phil briefly had the plague and then is back. Yeah, it's good. It's fine.
The spring sickness.
Yeah.
But everything's good now, just like in this section, which we will read. So page 60 to 67. Everything's
fantastic. What could possibly go wrong?
Everything's going fine, and it is going to go fine.
And I hate it so much, but I love it at the same time. Yes. So we did read the section and prep the podcast, but then we had a week delay. So God bless. This is me working off of my really silly notes that are not actually all that helpful. But basically, we pick up. So last time we were in the middle of the joust for the really cool Super Sweet 16 that we were celebrating. And we pick up there. Everything is going dandy. Dunk is really enjoying himself. I like a few of the things that are described. There's a Sir Humphrey Beesbury. So just side note, I love the Beesbury house because they like really lead into that bee thing. And bees are like my thing. There's like a bee lock and everything like that. Yeah. And my YouTube channel, Barely Functional Bee. Do you get it? It's a joke.
Yeah.
So they're like my house. I'm like, that's my boys. They're like riding around with their like black and yellow striped shit. And I'm like, yeah, like that's it. Like get them.
I've inadvertently worn yellow for this podcast as well. So we are.
Oh, I should get like a black and yellow striped shirt. Oh, that would be so cool. Oh, I should do that. I'm going to do that. So Sir Humphrey Beesbury is like fucking people up. And that's just like various descriptions of like who's winning and how they're riding. And it's all very like.
We get a lot more Humphrey Harding too in this section about because him and Humphrey Beesbury fight this like titanic battle that was known by the small folk as the Battle of Humphrey.
Always creative, the small folk with their names. Love it. There's like a whole paragraph about Lionel Baratheon, who was the Laughing Knight, who is fucking people up. He's like fighting them and like winning, but also like screwing up their armor. Like the people that have all the fancy helmets and stuff like that. And the small folk love that shit. They're like, fuck your fancy helmet with your fancy design on top. Like now it's ruined. And all the knights are like, this is awful. And he's just laughing at them.
I do love, like, there's something so... I feel like Lionel Baratheon with this whole Laughing Storm thing is so quintessentially Baratheon, where he's kind of the most fun distilled version of Baratheon that we've run into in the entire series, or in the entire universe, if you will. Of George has never let a Baratheon just genuinely enjoy themselves.
That's true.
Like Robert is the closest they've had, but his partying comes at like a severe cost, right? So it's like Lionel is the first like consequence-free partying Baratheon.
Imagine Stannis laughing.
Yeah.
No such thing. Can't be done. No, George said no laughter, no joy in this family. It's only this one guy.
just this guy. So I do love that he lets Lionel Baratheon just be sort of this like caricature of the house where he's literally just having the most fun. And it's I also do love the idea of, you know, this is sort of the medieval version of the t-shirt cannon.
Okay.
where people are clamoring like to be thrown the gilded crests of these. Here, Lionel. He's like looking in the crowd, like who to toss it to.
Who can shout the loudest? Hey!
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. So the joust is going great. Everybody loves that. The young
we get more of the we get more of the sort of the Valar isn't fighting anybody serious. Like Dunk just continues to note that it's like he's and I think it was in this section. Yeah. He says he's beating old men and up-jumped squires. Sir.
Up-jumped squires, Dunk?
Dunk.
That's so weird. What a weird
all
thing
he's
to
doing,
say about someone else.
He's beating just up-jump squires. This guy is not a serious knight. And I just found that funny where Dunk goes like, this is maybe the one time Dunk kind of forgets himself, like in a positive way. He very often forgets that he's a knight, but he very rarely forgets that he's poor. And in this,
he's also an up-jump squire.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
I found that very funny. And Valar is like lounging, just like loving his pavilion.
There's this great picture I'm gonna hold it up for anybody watching the YouTube channel. There's this great picture of Valar like chilling, like just they're at a Renaissance fair. It's going great. You know, no one has yet died or stabbed a horse in the neck, but that's about to change. So then we get a brazen fanfare announce the entry of a new challenger. And I love the description. It's a great red charger whose black bardings were slashed to reveal glimpses of yellow, crimson, and orange. And so this like really fancy knight comes on scene. And just like gorgeous the way it was described. So like a red charger, like so a charger is just like a really big fucking horse. I'm not sure if they're referring to a particular breed or if they just mean like a horse bred for knight stuff.
Yeah.
But like that a kind of like a red horse is so like I don't know if I've ever seen one like in real life. They're just so beautiful and like so striking. And to have like a giant red horse just like be decked in all of these like Targaryen, like black and red and orange, like just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And he has like this fancy helmet that has all of these dragons on it, and it is Prince Aerion Brightflame.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure will be fine.
So for those keeping track of the family tree,
please help me because I'm lost.
So Maekar's son, and great, you know, by virtue of that, grandson of the king, but already he's taken on sort of his own name and sigil and all this sort of stuff. Like he is not Prince Aerion Targaryen, like he is going by this other name. So it seems like, you know, inheritance wise, like where's that put him and all of that, if he's already trying to start his own sort of like cadet branch of the, I don't really know how all of that works, but cadet branches of
it's the king is Daeron, and then
Maekar's his
heir,
fourth born,
right?
Son,
Because his heir is Valar, and so that's where like the heir is. So Maekar's like way down.
Baelord of Valar, yeah. Right.
So it's Daeron, Baelor, Valar. Maekar's like way down, and Aerion is Maekar's son.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So they got a lot of boys going on.
Yeah, a lot of boys.
Throw a sister in there somewhere.
Too many boys for their own good.
They're running out of names. They're down to Maekar. I mean, come on. What are you gonna do with that boy? they're like really like digging at the bottom of the barrel for the Targaryen like prefix and suffix kind of situation.
Yeah.
They're like, it can't be Maelor. We can't do that one. Maekar.
Yeah. He gets announced by the Herald like very sort of vividly. And like you said, the description of Aerion is very striking. Like just this guy is the picture of Targaryen power. Three-headed dragon on his shield, with all of these colors, like you said, his blackened helm surmounted by a crest of red enamel flames. Like this is a very, very like over the top, even compared to Valar, who is seen as this like, you know, strikingly Targaryen, but certainly not to the extent that that Aerion is. And Aerion carrying this name Brightflame in a very overt way.
Aerion spent a lot of time and money on his cosplay, and he cannot wait to show it off to you. He's like, wait till you see this shit. This is gonna be great.
And
so he challenges Sir Humphrey, which Humphrey Harding.
Yeah. And we just got a ton of descriptions of how I think he has beaten like 14 challengers or something like that. Like after the initial bouts where he kept his place as champion, he's defeated something like 14 people. And we talked about him being serious maybe last episode or the episode before, or last episode, I guess. He's continuing to show like that he is a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
And so Aerion challenging him is like, okay, we're in for something pretty special here. Like the prince has chosen to fight maybe one of the toughest competitors in the lists.
Yeah. And I'm sure that'll go fine. So they just lined up to joust. And what's interesting is, so Egg at this point, Dunk is holding Egg on his shoulders in the crowd so he can see, which is the cutest thing. And Egg shouts, kill him, he's right there. Kill him, kill him, kill him. And the text says Dunk was not certain which of the knights he was shouting to, which is an important point we could come back to.
Yeah.
Who he's hoping will die.
Yeah. Why does Egg have such a... Because Egg has not commented like this on any of the other jousts up to this point. So why is he so ardent about someone being killed in this particular joust?
Right. Well, but Dunk doesn't even think that. Dunk's just like, I wonder which one he wants to die. Yeah. Dunk's not like, why do you have opinions on this? Dunk's just like, I wonder which one he wants to perish in this joust. Yeah. So basically what then happens is my least favorite scene so far, where Prince Aerion purposefully, pretty obviously from the text, purposefully uses his lance to stab the Humphrey's horsey through the neck, which kills the horse. Yeah. And also causes it obviously to collapse. It collapses on top of Sir Humphrey, and then he's like trapped, and he ends up, I think, having a broken leg from this. And while this is happening, like the two jousters are like approaching each other on the lists, and Dunk can see that Aerion's lance is too low. Yeah. And Dunk's like, oh, he's gonna pull it up at the last minute. Like it's like a trick. He's gonna be like, you think my lance is here, but it's really here. Haha. You know, he's gonna pull it up. And then they get closer and closer. And Dunk's like, he's not gonna have time. And it's because he wasn't trying to. Yep. And Dunk's like, it is in this section at least kind of surprised and like kind of in denial about Prince Aerion meaning to do that, even though he like saw it happening in front of him.
Yes. He even, because Egg pushes and says that was no mishap. Mm-hmm. And Dunk knows that it's not. Mm-hmm. But at the same time said it was hard to accept that any knight could be so unchivalrous, least of all one who was blood of the dragon. Yep. So he says to Egg, I saw a knight green as summer grass lose control of his lance, he said stubbornly, and I'll hear no more of it. The jousting's done for the day, I think. Come, lad. Like, just cuts it off. Because it's simply not possible that the prince of Summerhall, the son of Maekar, chose to joust one of the most talented riders in the list and did something dishonorable to beat him. Mm-hmm.
Did something so dishonorable. Mm-hmm. That like kills a horse, which like I looked like Egg, like thank you Egg, because Egg's like, oh, the poor horse, and I'm like, yeah, the poor horse, he didn't do anything wrong, he just running down the list. It's like really shitty to do that, and extremely dishonorable to do that. And how could a prince of House Targaryen possibly do something dishonorable? It's almost as if blood purity is bullshit. That'd be so weird if that was a theme. Anyway,
there's this moment too where after Aerion, he kills the horse, he rounds at the end of the list and actually dismounts his horse and rushes towards Humphrey Harding, who is again pinned under the horse, and his leg is broken.
He's like straight up trying to kill him. He has to be held back. I think it says like
squires and like men had to hold him back.
His own squires and one of Sir Humphrey's had to pull him back. Was he going to kill him? Was he going to just like stab him under the horse? Like what the hell? What's wrong with this psychopath? What's going on?
It's such a disturbing scene. The way that George describes it is truly horrifying. The way I don't want to drag out the horse torture further than it was in the text, but it was just a very sickening scene. And it's one where, we get the first, we talked about how the jousts were proceeding like up to this point, and how there was basically just very good sportsmanship, to use like a more modern term. And this is basically the first, unchivalrous or, unsportsmanlike thing that happens of winning in a way that is dishonorable or cheating. Because, thinking about jousting specifically, you can, if someone tries to hit you with a lance, you have a shield that you are able to try to defend yourself against. You can't defend your horse from a lance. Right. It's impossible. And that is obviously the the issue with this, in that you're meant to try to strike the man, not the horse, in a contest joust. I'm sure it's very common in war to try to strike the mount.
I think knights in war are not jousting. I think knights in war generally have swords. I mean, perhaps they have spears or lances as well.
Yeah,
but
they're not riding at each other typically.
They're not like in a list one-on-one kind of situation. It's sort of a different, at least from what I've seen playing Civilization over the years. That the knights always have little swords, so that's what I imagine war is like, right?
Right.
It's just like the video game. And I think one question we can carry forward, if we can unpack this at any point, is that, and we'll see more of this in the next section of like the actual consequences of this, but like this is not going to be the kind of win where everyone's like, yay, Aerion, and everyone's like, yay, congratulations, you've won, So given that it's pretty easy to predict that people are not going to be pleased with this, why do it?
Yeah, it is a strange one, because if your concern is winning in the technical sense, then I guess it's a good strategy. But Aerion immediately loses the crowd, which is an interesting sort of development, where it says in that, after it happens, it says all of Ashford Meadow was shouting. So like,
it's like winning the Electoral College and losing the popular vote, right? Like you won.
Yeah.
No one's happy about it though.
Right. That's what I'm almost thinking, like, to use a probably clumsy sports analogy, but just like, it's like scoring a goal in soccer using your hand, right? Where it's like, yeah, you did the thing that you're meant to do in a very illegal way.
Right, exactly.
And there's going to be a lot of people who are pissed off if you do somehow get away with it.
Right.
And so similarly, everybody is basically clamoring for the fact that one of the people who has spent the day, and I think this is where perhaps some of the, we can speak to the class structure and even amongst nobles. You have Humphrey Harding, who comes from a more minor house in the Vale, who has been spending his entire day beating people on his own merit, beating people fair and square, winning joust after joust, keeping his seat as champion, all that stuff. And it is a moment of complete, like, it is cheating, essentially, from a Targaryen prince who has all of the privilege, all the ability to practice jousting, all of the best, masters at arms, like has all of these advantages, and yet uses a dirty trick to beat this Valeman knight, and that is, to me, sort of, I think, what we're meant to, obviously it's a very strong characterization of Aerion Brightflame. In literally like 2 pages.
Yes. I mean, that's just like as like a little side vignette. One of the things I love about Martin's writing and the quality of Martin's writing is that he is able to characterize people that quickly. Like we know from this like page and a half exactly who Aerion Brightflame is, because of his appearance, everything you were saying about who he is status-wise, socially, and then his actions that do not comport with that status. And he's not the first Targaryen we've seen that is acting in a way that does not comport with status in all different directions. And we could get into that, I think, also like in the analysis and the themes. So, I mean, analysis-wise, you sort of got us into it already, like classism, like that his sort of interesting because Aerion's status does not protect him in this circumstance from the hate of the masses.
Right.
Like, even though he's the prince, I mean, to some extent, it protects him in that people like Dunk are trying to find a way to defend him. Like if that had been like the other Humphrey, like Humphrey Beesbury,
sure,
like nobody would have been like that was an accident. Everyone would have been like that was on purpose. But at least the initial reaction we get from Dunk is trying to defend the prince, because there is this assumption that like, but he's the prince, he can't be this way. But even still, the crowd turns. So that's definitely something that's present here in terms of the classism.
there's a little from Dunk, like the Dunk perspective to, he has this thought about what if this had happened? What if this happens to Thunder?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he's got nothing else. Like if he, it's one thing even to have to ransom his horse and his armor back, which he cannot afford to do.
Right.
But if his horse dies, it's over. It's beyond over. Like, because at least if Thunder lives, he could maybe beg, and just happen to, maybe it's Lionel Baratheon who beats him or something, and he'll be super chill and be like, yeah, you can have your horse. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's like, he can hope for that. But if Thunder's dead, it's over. There's no replacing the horse. Really, all that the horse is good for is entering jousts or selling for a lot of money.
Yeah. And I do think that also, that line also had a sense of emotion to it, or maybe I'm projecting.
I would say so.
Because Dunk was upset selling the other horse as well, selling Sweetfoot. Looking at that and being like, oh my gosh, what if that happened to my horse? This is why in Red Dead Redemption 2, we don't kill other people's horses, because what if that happened to our horse?
Exactly.
See, this is why you don't shoot horses.
And to bring it briefly back to Aerion's characterization again, I don't think it's an accident that cruelty against animals is used as the first thing that we get from, because Aerion acting with zero regard for the fact that he's killing this living thing that is carrying his opponent. That is, one of the classic indicators of these, like, when people are talking about profiling serial killers and stuff in the real world, it is one of the indicators of that potential behavior. And so I don't think it's any mistake that the first thing essentially we see Aerion do, aside from be a dick to Dunk, we don't know it's him at the time.
Right. Yeah, well, that's true. We did see him be a dick to Dunk at the beginning.
But the next thing we do is see him kill an animal for no reason.
Yeah, like a helpless, innocent animal that was not hurting him in any way. And that was like part of the game. Yeah. It's like, bro, we were playing a game. You didn't need to kill the horsey in the process.
It is not that deep.
It is not that deep. It is not that deep. He went way too hard. We're like, we get it. Your cosplay is great. Calm down.
Right. Everybody was on board when it was all streamers coming off of your horse that look like flames. Yeah. And now you're just a dick.
Right. Exactly. This is, what this is like? This is like when I don't know if you've ever been to a convention, but you go to a con and you go to the game room and there's Rock Band or Guitar Hero. And everyone's just having a good time. And then there's that one kid who comes and is playing through the fire and flames on expert with his eyes closed. And it's like,
hits 100%.
I get it. It's 100%. I'm like, I get it. You're really good at this. That's not the point. No one's impressed. It's on no fail mode for a reason. We're hanging out.
Right.
Stop.
This was meant to be chill.
This was meant to be chill. You're taking this somewhere it doesn't belong. That's what's happening.
And Aerion really does kill the vibe of the party. It's over immediately.
He literally kills the vibe of the party.
Yeah. Very much so. And poor Humphrey Harding. It looks like a broken leg. We'll see if it's worse than that for them. But
So I did want to talk also analysis wise. Again, we get this is not so much in this section, more so in the next one, but Egg, we get more information that Egg is very knowledgeable about what's going on, and Dunk is just missing it left and right. Just not putting any, has all the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
There's 10 puzzle pieces. They fit together very easily, but he's yet to put them together. Yeah. He's not aware there's a puzzle, he's not even at the board right now.
Yeah. Egg is somehow Egg is somebody who has somehow wandered into a group that is doing an escape room. And he thinks that he's just in a room that he can't get out of.
Yeah.
He's not understanding that all of these clues add up to something.
Right, yeah.
He's just I don't understand why I can't get out of here.
He's I guess this is the room I'm in.
Yeah.
It's nice. Look at the tree canopy. It's so good.
That is something that I think, just the fact that Egg is on point with he knows every single royal, he knows every single knight, he knows every single person that is.
He has opinions.
in the story and has opinions, strong opinions, deathly opinions in some cases. And Dunk does not think that is weird at all.
Yeah, he's just like, yep, sounds good. You're screaming for the death of potentially the prince. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. I wonder why.
I did think it was interesting that they included, and this is where there was a, talking about the George's writing as a gardener. I think this story is in particular one of the things where Aerion Brightflame is positioned, I would say, in the story to be a broader antagonist of some kind in the world. Not in the series, obviously, because he's, this is far too far before for him to be alive or something like that. But it does feel like he's being positioned. And then in the next story, we get sort of George's replacement for the Brightflame idea. And I think it's very funny reading this where I'm like, it all feels very clear that he was setting something up here, that he decided like, actually, I've come up with something better.
Yeah.
Which is
pay no attention to the bright flame behind the curtain.
Because making him, the one thing that struck me about this is he has him announced as the Prince of Summerhall, which is such it's a title that doesn't really mean anything, I would say, because George turns that into the vacation spot, essentially.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's just it's given to, like, Maekar, I believe, is at Summerhall. So it's like, okay, it's the fourth son of the king. It's not a serious title. It's just like, how many castles do the Targaryens have laying around that they can give away?
Yeah.
And so Aerion gets this sort of, but him being the Prince of Summerhall, like, feels like it could be something that's significant in a different version of this story. But George just decided, I'm going to go a different route.
Yeah, definitely. I think as we work through the novellas, I would like to come back to that idea.
For sure.
Because I think George as a gardener is a really interesting way to interpret his writing, which I think he called himself that, right? He said, like,
he does, yeah.
Yeah, so that, which makes sense, which is why the books are so good. So in terms of, like, analysis and themes wise, we kind of start to overlap because the main thing in this section, I think, is really a combination of, like, what is the true meaning of knighthood along with blood purity is fake. So Dunk is shocked that a prince who is a knight, who is of Targaryen blood, who is blood of the dragon, could do this, could be this, like, blatantly dishonorable, to kill a horse, to hurt another knight in a joust that was, like, pretty much meaningless, right? Like, it wasn't like it wasn't like a war or something like that, in front of all of these people who could clearly see that happen. Like, it's the kind of thing that, like, if Dunk did that shit, oh my God, he'd be, like, arrested. Yeah, at least, at minimum arrested. Maybe
straight to jail.
Yeah, directly to jail. Do not pass go.
Yeah.
Do not kill us, like, 200 pennies. So Dunk is, like, really shocked by that. And I think, but in terms of the true meaning of knighthood, that really is, like, a sharp contrast, because here we have Dunk, who is almost certainly not a true knight in the sense that he wasn't knighted, but who has demonstrated just 60-ish pages into the story so much more valor and honor than we've just seen with Aerion. And just, like, that juxtaposition, and we can sort of revisit this going forward, that juxtaposition, I think, is, like, one of the major points of this story, is like having you think, like, what truly makes someone a knight.
And we heard in the section where Dunk stumbles into the meeting with Baelor and has that whole exchange. At the beginning of that, Maekar is talking about his sons, and Aerion is described as sort of the one that has his stuff together, because Daeron's missing, Aegon's missing, like, we don't know what's up with them, and Daeron's a drunk, and he's, like, he's just a screw up, like, nobody really, he wouldn't joust anyways, even if he was here. But Aerion will still enter the list. Like, you still have a son who's normal and will do this. And we come to find out that even, his son, who does line up more with more of the traditional values of a noble house like this and what being a man in one of these houses means. He's not a good man. And he's not a good version of those ideals.
Yeah. And actually, it's a really good point. I think you could draw that out to a connection to A Song of Ice and Fire, to Brienne of Tarth. Yeah, because it is theorized that Brienne of Tarth is a descendant of Dunk the Tall.
Yeah.
So, the fact that the concept of like what is a good knight does not always match what Westeros thinks is a strong man, right? So because the patriarchy and the toxic masculinity and violence and stuff like that, which is not really the concept of chivalry exactly, it's a little bit complicated there. But the fact that Brienne, like Dunk, is like a knight who's not a knight kind of situation.
Yeah.
And she's trying to fulfill that role of knighthood, her hurdle being that she's not a man, so she can't be knighted.
Right.
Dunk's hurdle being that nobody knighted him, so he's not a knight.
Exactly.
But I think there's like a lovely parallel there, both of which contrast with someone like Aerion, who, like you're saying, on paper checks all the boxes, but in practice is actually quite terrible and a bad person. Yeah. And that checking those boxes don't make you a good person.
Yeah. Well, and so bringing it to the blood purity thing, listing out even the characters involved in this story and strictly focusing on their physical features. You have Baelor, half Dornish, brown hair, not typically Targaryen, by far the best person involved in the story whose name is Targaryen, right?
Right, exactly.
Aerion Brightflame, the picture, like I said, the picture of the Targaryen house, like the hair, the whole nine, like he is exactly what a Targaryen is meant to be, physically speaking. Horrible dickhead.
Yep, terrible person.
So you have these juxtapositions of these characters, even from just a physical standpoint. Not to say that, hey, every person who has blonde hair is a piece of shit and every person with brown hair is good, or vice versa, but to simply say that having blonde hair doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
Right, exactly. Because blood purity is fake. Right, exactly. I mean, what's great about the story so far is we've run into a handful of Targaryen kings or princes, and they all have different personalities. So what we know about King Daeron is that he is the good. So generally people like him. Fine. We don't really get a lot more than that right now, but that's fine. Then we have Baelor, like you said, who's just like super chill, very nice and polite to Dunk, like not a dick. Love him. Love that for him. Valar also seems like fine. Yeah. Valar's he's not like evil. He's not like the best knight. He's like,
his worst crime is that he's getting thrown a bunch of half-ass jousts. That's which may or may not be his actual fault because they have to challenge him actually. So
right, and he's just like chilling. Yeah, and then you have Aerion, who is the dirt worst. And then we've also encountered there might be another one we've had this whole time that maybe we'll find out very soon who he is, and we could talk about that.
And Maekar, we also get Maekar.
We get some Maekar.
Briefly.
Yeah. They're all different because being royal doesn't make you good. And the concept in the story that Targaryen's blood is special and therefore they are special is fake. Blood purity. If anyone can take one thing away from this podcast, blood purity is fake. They aren't magic. I'm sorry to tell you this.
There are exceptional people in this family, just like there are exceptional people in many families, and there are exceptionally awful people in this family, just like there are exceptionally awful people in many families.
Exactly. And I think that's like a big, you introduce a character like Aerion, and I think that's a big part of it. Do you know off the top of your head, does the phrase about Targaryens being like a coin flip, is that the television show infecting my brain, or was that the books? I never remember.
Now I'm trying to remember if because I don't remember. I think it is a book thing. I feel like it is said in the books, but I feel like it's said, it was not said as frequently as it, because they started to really lean on that towards the end.
Right. So my point was going to be in the bad show, Game of Thrones.
I think it's maybe Barristan says it when he's like counseling Daenerys and telling her about Ares.
Yeah, maybe I do kind of recall it being a dialogue thing.
Yeah.
But like in the books are all point of view bias. So whoever says it in the book is like, the point is that might have been a prevailing view or even a view among some at the time.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean it's true. And the show, the bad show, really leans into that as true. Like Targaryens are either good or evil. And it's like, no entire family is either just good or evil. That's not how like humans are. And that's just as reductive as being like, because they're Targaryens and have blonde hair, they must be magic, right? Like it's the same kind of propaganda. So like anything that boils a whole group down to like one thing or like a simple concept is wrong.
100%.
The Dornish like to do more things than fight and fuck, okay? Like they're doing more things than that.
It's so true. And I think it is very much a show thing too, because George, we talked in the last episode, I think, about families not being monoliths, and it's like it's true for the Targaryens, it's true for literally all of these families, it's true for the small folk, it's true for like, because we're all human beings, and so there are bad people who are part of the, there is no monolithic amazing family that is just virtuous. As much as people like to boil things down that way and say, House Frey is treacherous and Starks are amazing and all of these things, it's like there have been dickhead Starks. I'm so sorry to say. And there have been Freys who have been ass kickers and amazing, right? Like, and that is the interesting thing about this is it is a, in a world invented by this man, it is a world that feels lived in by human beings, which is why the story is so interesting to begin with. Right?
And it's one of the main facts of it too, because it's the whole premise of monarchy is that we deserve to be monarchs because we're different, and we're different because we're better, and we as a collective are better because like our blood is better, or in this case magic, whatever. Yeah. And like that is so fundamentally untrue. Yeah. And George just displays it in every way he possibly can. And I think like the example is here with what Dunk is just observing at like a regular joust, like a run of the mill, like we went there for the weekend to joust, like this is not like anything crazy. He just in a few days seeing exactly that played out just in front of him on the page for us. So I think that's like one of the overarching themes of Dunk stories, and of the series in general as well.
For sure. No, I love that. And I also enjoyed thinking about, this is obviously the most crazy thing that's ever happened to Dunk, attending a tourney as a knight. So Ashford Meadow is something he will never forget. Most of the knights here not named Baelor Bracebeard will not remember anything that happens here 1 year from now. Like they will not remember. Now, if it were to just be a tournament that occurs. Now, obviously this is a book that is compelling. So
will something else happen? I don't know. I think it'll be fine. What's the problem?
We have peaked. Aerion killing the horse is the climax of the story.
Yeah, the book's almost over. That's it, right? That's what I was promised. I was promised exactly one horse death, and that would be it.
It cannot get worse.
It can't get worse from here.
Well, with that, I mean, what do you want to see in the show version of these events, which will almost certainly be a, pivotal moment of what happens in the first season? Yeah.
I don't want to see any horsey death, but I have a feeling there will be. I just hope it's like off screen. I want them to do like a cutaway and do like a nay, and then like I understand what happened as opposed to seeing the horsey death. Yeah. I do think the costuming for Aerion is going to be pivotal.
100%.
Because, and we talked about this previously, I'm like really sick of grimdark stuff. And if this fucking tourney is all shades of brown and gray, I'm going to lose my whole mind.
Yeah.
This man has to ride in with like the coolest silk and satin that he got from Joanne's Fabrics. And just like the coolest, like, and in House of the Dragon, they gave Damon these like pauldrons that were like straight up made out of Ava foam, like Ava craft foam. They were like I looked at them like I could make those in my house. I know exactly how you made those Ava foam. Like I want better. I want better armor for my boy Aerion. Not my boy, but the man Aerion. He's not my boy. We don't like him. We do not endorse Aerion Brightflame. Like I think that scene is really important in terms of like where the episode. I think this could be like an episode 2 because how many episodes did they say? 8?
6, I think.
6. Oh, then this is like an episode 2 kind of event.
I would say yeah. The introduction. I would say the intro of Aerion, like this actually, these sections sort of feel like maybe, the middle or like maybe the end of Act 1 is this, ends with this. And then the maybe closer to the end of the episode is sort of the moment that we'll talk about next time. But it does feel like it could be, part of an episode could be this sort of transition of Aerion Brightflame as the resident antagonist.
I could see them writing a script that gets us all the way here by the end of episode 1. I mean, it's possible. I feel like it would feel a little rushed because there's quite a number of things that happen, but it's possible.
I think, and this is more of a House of the Dragon scar tissue thing than than specifically a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms because we haven't seen this show yet. I need Aerion to purposefully be an asshole, and I don't want it to be a misunderstanding or a mistake or a like, oh, I know I didn't mean to, or him knowing that he didn't mean to but acting like he did, or something like that. Like, I don't want any ambiguity when it comes to Aerion. Like, I need him to just be a fucking dickhead. Because I think it's important for him to be, I want, when I was reading this, I was very much reading this in Harry Lloyd's voice. Like, it was Viserys. Like, this is what Daenerys's brother, this Viserys, would have acted like had he been in Westeros, like in the royal family, in any sort of ruling capacity. Like, if we had ever gotten, a proper sort of Prince Viserys of Dragonstone, this would have been him. Just a complete asshole. And I need, I just want it to be unambiguous because I feel there's been a lot of sort of things in House of the Dragon where they've left it questionable about was it a mistake? I don't want there to be any ambiguity when it comes to Aerion.
I agree. And I think House of the Dragon, one of my critiques of House of the Dragon season 2 is that I really liked the ending where the Vhagar eating the smaller dragon was a whoopsie doodle. I liked that. They did not follow up on it in season 2, which was unfortunate. I thought that was a really missed opportunity. It's one of my critiques of the season because I wanted to see how Aemond sold that. Right. But I agree. I think it should be like clear as day in the same way that it should be clear as day that Dunk is not a knight. Right. Like it's just Dunk is not a knight. He was not knighted. we are riding this out pretending. And that is a main part of the story. Like Aerion Brightflame, douchebag. That needs to be obvious. Yeah.
His I think you can do it with Dunk's sort of inner monologue being spoken of the like his lance is too low, like why is he doing that, and
he's couching his lance too low, he needs to raise it up or he's gonna hit the horse.
And then Egg just screams, kill him.
That'd be so great.
It's like his lance is too low, kill him, he's right there, kill him.
Well, he shouldn't raise his lance that high, that'd be bad. Don't knock his head off, come on. It's so good.
No, this section really does emphasize, I think, what whether or not he is the villain, he is a villain, Aerion Brightflame. And
But
I loved his introduction.
I'm sure that he'll never do anything villainous again.
No,
I'm sure this was the one time. This is it.
He's learned his lesson.
Yeah.
He heard the shouts from the small folk and was like, you know what? I've heard your feedback. I'm taking it on board, and I'm going to try to correct my behavior in the future.
He releases like a notes app apology to Instagram. I've heard everyone's upset about the horse. I didn't mean it. It was a mistake, but I understand my problem.
I've consulted with my coaches and with my team and decided that it's best if I just apologize, and my heart goes out to Humphrey Harding.
Yeah. Great.
Well, I think the next section that we're going to be reading.
Yes, I think it's a little bit longer. Question mark? Maybe not. Maybe it's
kind of this. I think it's the same.
So it'll be page 67 from there's like a break kind of towards the bottom of 67 through page 74, ending at the very bottom of 74 where there's 3 stars. The last line is, "I didn't want to look like you." Mysterious.
Very mysterious.
Who could say that about themselves?
Find out next time. You like the radio drama.
Yeah.
But well, thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of A Pot of the Seven Kingdoms. And if you have, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify. It's video podcasts on both, which is cool. Very cool. And I have seen some followers popping up on Spotify, so it's cool to see some people finding the podcast that way. But whichever way you find it, feel free to comment. We love the comments, and the people who have been commenting are very thoughtful, which I very much appreciate about the fact that the audience that we're attracting early on are thinking about this story as deeply as we are.
Yes.
Which, is normal and totally like par for the course.
Yeah, is this not what everyone does with their spare time? Doesn't everyone sit in their basement for 2 hours at a time talking about a book? I'm talking about 5 or 6 pages of a book. I don't understand the problems.
Is that, but where can people find you on the internet aside from here?
If you would like to follow me specifically, I am Block on TikTok. I'm also here on YouTube at Barely Functional B, which is my YouTube channel that I've been posting at a rate of like once every 3 or 4 weeks. So we're working on it. We're getting there. Editing is a bitch.
It is.
And I do also do a podcast about Fire and Blood, which is a very close reading of Fire and Blood with my friend Gretchen. That is called House of Fire and Blood. That's available on all your regular podcasts apps. Each of those episodes is like 2 hours. So if you enjoy the deep analysis, join us there. I am also starting to post my own original science fiction story called Cataclysm, which I'm starting to post on Substack. I think you can search Substack. My name on Substack is Block, and I'm posting weekly every Friday an update to that story. It's about zombies. Yay.
That's cool.
I think we could put a link down below, or I'll put a link in the comments. There's Substack is kind of a difficult website to use, but once you get the hang of it, it's easier. So if anybody's interested, it's like genuinely like first draft material, and I'm just making myself post every week to make myself actually write the story.
Yeah.
So any comments or feedback would be great from anybody who's interested. And you're going to be like, Balak, you're so critical of everyone. Let me be critical of you. And I'm going to say, yes, please do it. Like I just want to be critiqued. That's all I desire.
Yeah.
So those are all the places I can find me. And they can find you obviously here, and then where else?
Yep, here and then over on TikTok, you can find me at Damon Bachfire. I have been continuing to. I think my most recent thing is making fun of Gavin Newsom's podcast by turning him into Roose Bolton interviewing the worst people in Westeros. So you
don't like Gavin Newsom's podcast and think that's a great idea? That's so weird. But he's hip with the youth, and he's talking to us on the way we understand.
It is so crazy to watch a man that far out of his depth try to act like he's being like he's defending left positions against crazy right wingers and not just platforming them and allowing them to say whatever they want with basically no pushback. It's insane.
Well, welcome to the Democrats.
So if you feel that way about Gavin Newsom's podcast and you like A Song of Ice and Fire, then you'll love my TikTok. But yeah, so that's what we've got going on. But thank you all for joining. Join us next time, and we will catch you then. Enjoy, everyone, and we'll see you then.
Bye.